Welcome into Gorilla Sports Off Ice. I'm Meghan Angley, and in just a moment, I'll be joined by Corey Masisak of the Denver Post. And today we are talking the current state of the Avs and what this team is going to look like coming out of the Olympic break. Are they really as good as their early season success? Or was this last stretch of hockey more revealing of some cracks beneath the surface? But before we start, I want to address the obvious glow up on set. You may have noticed that the furniture looks extra nice and beautiful, and that is thanks to our friends over at Furniture Row. Furniture Row is a family owned company known for high quality home furniture at incredible value and an easy, hassle free shopping experience from living rooms and dining rooms to bedrooms and outdoor spaces. Everything you need is under one roof. With over 100 locations across the United States, Furniture Row offers a terrific selection, unbeatable value, and knowledgeable, no pressure staff who actually take the time to help you find what is going to work for your space and your budget. Furniture Row, where great style, quality, and value all come together. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. It's a Friday show, and we've got special guest Corey Masisak of the Denver Post. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm very much looking forward to the break. It's been I think I'm obviously the Avs players look like they needed a break for a little bit here, and I think I can probably, well, speaking for myself, I could use one as well. It's just been a kind of a long season so far, but interesting one certainly. Yeah.
In my mind, you are going on vacation with the Avs. You will be going on break with them.
There are an inordinate number of players on this team that are going to be somewhere in the state of Hawaii. I will be there as well. I think Jared Bednar is the only one that is also going to the Big Island like I am. So I don't think any of the other players are going to be, hanging out with the volcanoes or any of the other places you can go. But yeah, we did have an interesting exchange about that the other day.
That cracked me up. Jared doesn't want to run into you. It's okay. You can't escape us, Jared Bednar. All right, let's talk about this record, 37-9-9 with 83 points and a clear 5-point lead over Minnesota, 3 games in hand on them, 6-point lead over Dallas, 2 games in hand on them. The Avs have a pretty unimpeachable record to start the season, but their last 10 games, 5-4-1, and that January through February stretch ahead of the Olympic break, they go 7-7-2. It had some people panicking a little bit. And there's a lot of context and nuance, I think, to explain this recent stretch of hockey from the Avs. My personal take is that I'm not ultimately too worried about it, but I did want to check in with you, how you're feeling and what kind of value you assign to this last stretch of hockey for the Avs.
Yeah, I look, I think we saw 2 different things. One, they were incredibly healthy for the first 40 games of the season, right? Like, Val Nichushkin missed 8 games and they went 7-1 in those games, right? And that was a pretty good tell that this team is a little better than the one from the past couple of years, because every time Nichushkin was out, they fell apart. And B, it was just like, this is what this team, this is my 3rd year covering the team, and it feels like that first stretch of the season was like, this was in there at times the past couple of years. It's just they've always had guys hurt or missing or whatever. Obviously, no Gabriel Landeskog. And so, you can't separate the fact that in these last 15 games, Gabriel Landeskog has not completed any of them, right? He played in 1 and got hurt in the first period and hasn't played since.
Right.
Devon Taves missed all but 2 of them. And then the last 2, Marty Netchus didn't play. So they haven't had 2 of their key players, and look, every other team, as Jared Bednar has told us many times, every other team in the league goes through this. They just hadn't yet, really. And so I think, not to be too vanilla about it, but the answer is somewhere in the middle, right? They're not right. They're not the team. They weren't necessarily going to be a 135-point team, even if they stayed healthy. And also, they're not a 500 team either. They're somewhere in the middle. They're still really good. I think, to me, the biggest takeaway from this is probably, I think there was a debate about whether or not they should do too much or try to do anything before the trade deadline, right, because the team was rolling so well. And I think just having this little bit of a dip was enough for everyone to be like, oh yeah, okay. I personally, I didn't think that Chris McFarland was going to just sit on his hands. even if they were still rolling right now, I still think he is just an aggressive general manager, and they are, as they've shown the past few years, they're all in. And so they were still going to make a trade or two. But now I still think there's probably more of an impetus now, like, okay, those things that we thought they needed, they still need them, even if the record was what it was, a few weeks ago.
I think too, with respect to the trade deadline coming out of the Olympic break, March 6th is going to come up really quickly.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to happen pretty suddenly. And I'll put a pin in that for a second, because I do want to talk trade deadline needs in just a second. I don't know if we want to get it out of the way now and talk about the power play, because I'm sure that you're inundated with questions about the power play all day long. And for what it's worth, I want to validate everybody's, concerns around the power play too. It's not a funny thing that they've struggled as much as they have. Month by month, it's been sitting in the bottom of the league, with the totality of the power play being ranked last, and the net power play percentage not favoring them because of the shorthanded goals that they've allowed from some of those broken plays. They lead the league with 9 shorthanded goals against, only 27 power play goals and 179 opportunities. As the team with the 6 most power play opportunities, it's not a lack of information that we have on the Avs power play. I guess, where do you want to start? Like, do you have a common thread issue that you're seeing in what is causing the problems, and their inability to drive consistency on it?
Oh boy. I think there's like any number of things that are wrong, or not are wrong every night, but it's one thing one night, it's one thing right. So, I mean, we're just like, Alan, if you're watching, you can clip this and put it on social media. I think one thing that we really haven't talked about at all is that they kind of missed Jonathan Drouin on the power play. Like there's a whole bunch of different threads you can pull on, but like, I think Jonathan Drouin was really, really, really good at being the guy in the bumper, the guy in the middle of the 1-3-1. And he just had like this, I mean, he's an incredibly smart hockey player to begin with, but he had like a good sense of that guy. And whenever the things were set up the way they were last year and 2 years ago, it was his job to sort of draw people to him or draw people away from him. He wasn't even necessarily going to touch the puck, but he could still impact where the guys from the PK were on the ice.
Yeah.
And that made it much easier for Nathan MacKinnon to throw it across the ice to Mikko Rantanen for him to hammer a one-timer and for it to go in, or for Cale Makar to find a shooting lane and for Val Nichushkin or somebody in front of the net to tip it in. And I just think that like there are several things that are missing. I'm not saying that like if they had Jonathan Drouin on today that everything would be fixed, because honestly, like they have had so many good healthy players this year that it's not even a given that Jonathan Drouin would definitely be on PP1 every game. It would just and that's I think that's, so we can run down the list. It's taken them, they still don't know who their 5 best five are for the power play. Like I don't think they do. I think like that game the other day in Detroit, it looked great. And that was like, that's a very simple setup. It's, it's Nate, it's Cale, it's Brock, it's Val and Arturi in the middle, and it's just ping, 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 shoot, traffic, whatever. But like Marty Necas is on this team, and he's a very important part of this team. And so like, I think they found a way for this to work last year for a little bit, but this year with, the new coaching situation and then like Brock Nelson on the other side, they just haven't really figured out exactly how it fits with Necas. And like they need to figure it out. I mean, he's one of the best players in the world. And so that's one thing. I don't think they know who their best five is. I don't think Cale Makar is shooting enough. And whether that is he's not doing it enough or he's just not finding enough space because of the thing that we just talked about. I think even at times I don't think Nate shoots enough. I think there was early in the year, there was a lot of, he likes to make that little backhanded saucer pass into the middle to Arturi Lehkonen or to Val. Like if you watch the past 2 games, that's just not there. Like teams have been trying to take that away for a while now. And I don't, and then like it just goes down the list. Like I don't think Valeri Nichushkin has had that much of an impact on the power play this year. And I think back to like, it was my first year, 2 years ago. There was a stretch, not at the beginning of the season, but kind of in the middle, when the Avs scored, I don't know what it was, 8 or 9 power play goals in a stretch of 3 weeks. And every single one of them was Kale shot it from the top of the point, and Nichushkin either tipped it or provided a screen. Like those two guys had almost every power play goal for like a whole month. And I even remember at the time it was like, this is very simple, but this isn't really unlocking the full potential because they were only like 8th or 9th in the league. And it was like, they have all this talent. They should be 1st or 2nd or 3rd. And now I think back like, man, if they were 8th or 9th in the league in the power play right now, they'd have, 92 points, and this whole thing would be wrapped up and done. Right. So, it's look, I know like there's one very obvious thing from the fan base. It's the coach or the coaches. I don't, it's not, I don't know. I don't think Ray Bennett was 100% responsible for the power play last year.
Right.
And Dave Haxtell is not 100% responsible for it this year. It's very much a collaboration. Like the analytics department gets involved, the scouting department gets involved. Nathan McKinnon has a say, Cale McCarr has a say, right? So it's, but I look, there's, I just rambled for a while there. There's 7 different things that are wrong. Nothing is really right. And like, it is a serious thing. Like I whenever they were, 25, 30 games into the season, it was like, all right, well, they'll figure it out and it'll be, even if it's just middling, that's fine. But like where it is now, like it can't be last. Like this is if they don't win the Stanley Cup and the power play costs them in the playoffs, it's going to have like serious ramifications. Like, stuff that, we probably don't need to get too far into on February in February, but like this, we've reached a point now where it is like, it's gone from being like, well, it's a little bit of a nuisance, but they're still really playing really well. But the fact of the matter is this past 15 games, this was the spot in the season where they needed the power play to figure it out. Like everybody knew that everything else wasn't going to work at 100% for 82 games. At some point, everything else, I think Jared has mentioned a couple times, like everything is like 5% off.
Right.
And this was the point in the season where if the power play had just figured out how to score 20% of the time, they would be, they would have 3 or 4 more points than they have right now, and everything would be fine. So yeah, it's a very serious, it's an issue. It's definitely like the biggest issue they have. And I don't think they need to like crack some code and suddenly score 30% of the time, but it just has to be like something that doesn't kill them. Like, and it really does, like, it affects them mentally. It can affect them on the scoreboard. So they just have to find, some level of improvement between now and the playoffs, I think, for everyone to feel a lot better about it.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point in seeing the role it played in the Dallas series and in seeing a couple games decided by the difference of not being able to convert on the power play already this season. Not many like it because they've been such a good 5v5 team. But I think you raise an interesting point that it's not been one singular issue at any given time. And when it's shown signs of life, there have been different things bringing it success, which is still a little tricky because those things then don't consistently bring it success. Like when Landeskog was the net front guy, it worked a lot because Jared Bednar talked about the difference between just being a big body in front of the net and knowing how to screen a goaltender properly. And so I think that was indirectly talking about Val Nichushkin not always being the most effective net front presence, because there is an aspect of positioning there and awareness that also makes you a dangerous net front guy. And so I think Landeskog really gets that. And so not having Landeskog to close out this stretch when they're really trying to leave the power play at least in a comfortable spot to return to and continue building probably impacts its success by itself. And then I think the issue of the bumper spot with Jonathan Drouin is such an interesting thing, because you're right that they haven't quite figured out what they like as the option in the middle. I think they've tried a couple different things, and a lot of PKs are picking up on that pass to the bumper from McKinnon. And there's just something about the chemistry between Drouin and McKinnon that was so innate that they were able to, maybe cycle a little bit higher, give and go before they would play to the middle. And I just don't know if anyone comes close to having that level of chemistry, except maybe Artturi Lehkonen, like not to the same level, but close enough. And I think that's why some of the most dangerous looks in that Detroit game at Detroit, I think it's Artturi Lehkonen in the middle. So there's some optimism there that maybe the answer is finding someone that works so well with Nate, because that's what it feels like a lot of this power play success boils down to. Is you'll see sometimes almost the full 2 minutes, it's Makar and McKinnon that are left on the ice with revolving guys coming in on that second unit. And so I think that's the other interesting part too there is the player role. Obviously, Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon are kind of in what appears to be a driver's seat in the success of the power play. And for better or for worse, maybe. What do you think about that level of responsibility and ownership in the power play being in the hands of the players like that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's, look, you're not every like different formation you can think of or dream up of, like 8 and 29 are going to be out there, right?
Right.
There's just no, I mean, I think I might have mentioned this, maybe it was with Jesse earlier in the year. There is, I would have loved to have seen, a game or two where it was Brent Burns at the top and Cale Makar on the flank, and Cale and Nate on the flanks, and just to see what it looks like, because Brent Burns is really good at getting shots through, and we might you might just see something different, like from Cale, if you put him on the wing and sort of unlock some more space for him or whatever. But it's definitely, I think they know that it's on them too. Like I'm sure like we interact with the fans a little bit more than they do, and we hear a lot about the coaching, but I'm pretty sure that those two guys in particular know that it's this is their kind of their responsibility. And so, and there was one other thing I wanted to mention too, of all the things that have gone wrong. Like, a lot of times whenever you have a power play that has like 4 or 5, world-class players, I think of like the Pittsburgh Penguins. They've had years where their power play has been terrible, despite having 3 or 4 Hall of Fame players on the. It's that if you put 4 Hall of Fame players out there, like, nobody wants to go get the puck after there's like a shot, and then nobody. And so, and that's the weirdly is, I don't think that's actually been an issue for this Avs team. I think, because of having, either Gabe or Val or Lecky, any of those guys out there, those guys are so good at like going and retrieving. Like, the simplest way to have success on the power play is to get set up, shoot the thing, and then go get it again. And then whenever the PK is all scrambled, then you do something cool and you score. Like, maybe the most concerning thing to me about this power play this year is that it's not really retrievals that's the issue. It's like they're turning the puck over, just passing it around. Like, it's not so much that, like, I know there was one point where I think it was Bednar, somebody said, like, look, like sometimes they just have to work so hard just to get one shot.
Right.
And like that's a huge issue. But it's like, if you get set up in the zone 3 times over the course of 2 minutes, and every time you turn it over, that's like not supposed to be a thing, right? So I think that's just just figuring out where they want everybody to be, and just simplifying a little bit obviously would help, even though that's, everybody always says simplify, and maybe but I don't know, it's definitely, there's a whole bunch of, it's almost like there's 5 different things they could fix, and they try one thing, and they try another thing, and they try another thing, and so it's a little bit of a mess.
I think, to say simplify it, I know even Jared Bednar seemed reluctant to embrace that, but there is something to be said for overcomplicating with a few passes too many. I said with Jesse, like, I get the impression, especially earlier in the year, less or so now, that they'd go out onto the power play looking to embarrass other teams, like Harlem Globetrotter other teams. And part of it, I think, is they wanted more deception and variety in how they create on the power play to address the issues of the Dallas series. I think there was a level of predictability. I think Makar's reluctance to shoot stems from a lack of confidence, because that shot from the point was picked up on by Dallas's PK so quickly. And I think he's trying to find other ways then to be an impact on the power play. And it's led to the issue of overcomplicating it a little bit, particularly in the minds of Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar. And so I don't think it's wrong to say, just get back to the basics a little bit, and expect that a shot attempt is going to be blocked, and then go in with the worker mindset to retrieve those pucks, because that part is to be expected a little bit on a power play. That's what a penalty kill unit's designed to do, right? But you just have to be prepared to pivot, reset really quickly when that beautiful set play that you had in mind doesn't go to plan. And it's easy for me to sit here and say that. So I really feel for them. I think a lot of it's mental at this point too, because I do think, as you pointed out, there's a lot of talent. Maybe it's too much, right? Like, maybe they have too many talented guys to choose from between both. I'm kidding. That's not the problem. But they've got their work cut out for them. Do you have some confidence or optimism that they can figure it out?
Yeah. I mean, there's like, it's they have two of the five best players in the world. It's I think I had written that earlier in the year where it was like, those two guys and three beer leaguers could have a good power play. Obviously this year it hasn't worked out yet, but no, it's like one of those things where they'll just wake up one day and just rattle off 7 power play goals in 5 games or something. And look, they've even done it a couple times this year. There was that stretch in like December, I think, right when like Brock Nelson scored a bunch. Yeah, right. And it was like, oh hey, they figured it out. This is the way to. And then that that sort of dried up too. So, and look, there's even, it's entirely possible that we will spend the entire regular season just consternating, or if that's even the right word, about the having all this angst about the power play, and like it might still stink in the playoffs and they still might win. Like there have been teams like the Chicago Blackhawks when they won their the 3 Stanley Cups. They were notorious for having like the power play would just disappear during the playoffs, and everybody would freak out about it, and it would be a huge deal every series, and then all of a sudden they'd win every series in 6 games and it didn't matter because their penalty kill was amazing, which the Avs penalty kill was amazing, and they just killed everybody at 5-on-5, which, so you can do it that way. It's just it'd be a little easier probably if they just could rely on the part where it's supposed to be the easiest to score goals has become the hardest for them. So
stop. Like I wanted to make it into a post-game question, like, so 4v4 is fine for you, but what's the issue then with 5v4? Like why is this so hard? Anyways, wasn't worth it. But I do want to switch gears here around Gabriel Landeskog, because I think the data of this team with and without Landeskog, it's interesting information that we have because of the time that he missed. And then this last stretch without Gabriel Landeskog, how do you process the record of this team then alongside the impact of Landeskog when he's in the lineup? Like how closely are these things linked? Is it a problem? Is it normal?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, look, like we can't quantify Gabe's leadership, right? But it's look pretty obvious the first 40 games of the season, right? There is, and look, and this is different than him being gone for 3 years and not being around the team for weeks at a time. Like he's still there. I mean, so I think it's partly him, but but like a small part. I think the biggest thing is that they didn't have him and Taves. And this was always the thing, even over the past couple of years. You could trot out the record when they have Valerie Nichushkin, when they don't. Right. But like most of those games that Val missed, they were also missing one of the other guys. Like this is the number one thing. The 30,000 foot view of the Colorado Avalanche is that they have more good players than everybody else. Yeah, literally, like they're Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, okay, maybe the best 1-2 punch in the league. That's the secret sauce for the Avs. Is Devon Taves is like in like the 5 to 7 range on this, right? Their 5 to 7 range is better than everybody else in the league. Whenever they have everybody, they're, as they showed, almost unbeatable. So whenever you take out 2 of those 7 guys, it's just going to be, they're just like everyone else. And that's that. And I mean, that's a little bit of an oversimplification, but it's true. Like they're, the Oilers have 4 or 5 players who can match up with their top 5. The Oilers don't have 7 who can match up with their top 7 or top 8 or whatever it is. So I think that's just, if part of it is Gabe, the unique personality of him, the way that he can kind of calm things down on the bench is probably worth a goal every few games or whatever. Yeah. But it's also the fact that they're missing Taves and Landeskog was a big part of it,
I think that's an important call out, because I think any team that loses their captain, it's not going to make them better. Yeah. It's not going to make them so much worse.
Rangers fans would disagree right now.
They're nothing. That's so true. Right. And without one of your most well-rounded, best in their own end defensemen, your team's not made better without that player. So I think towing that line of also not panicking, jumping off the deep end and saying they're nothing without these players is important too. They have more depth than I think they got credit for, at least at the start of the year. But this is a great segue into the greatest needs of the deadline conversation. What have you boiled it down to?
Well, okay, so I mean, it was surprising to hear Jared Bednar say we still need a number 3rd line center. Like even when the team was rolling, he was willing to admit that out in the open, which is,
I always thought that was weird too. Like, is this to inspire Jack Drury?
Right. So that's the biggest. There's like 3 or 4 different things that they could do. Yeah. Honestly, like the number one thing that they have to get, I think, is they have to add like another depth defenseman or two. Like the fact that, like, I mean, nothing against Jack Ashawn and Keaton Middleton.
Right.
I just don't think there's any world where Jared Bednar wants to have to rely on them in the playoffs if somebody gets hurt. They're great NHL or great AHL players who are, really good call-up type guys.
Right.
But it's just a different world in the playoffs. So like, like even at last year having Eric Johnson as like the 8th guy.
Yes.
He didn't play, right? He didn't play against Dallas. But if that run had gone on for 3 rounds, he might have had to play 3 or 4 games. And so the fact that they traded away Solovyov, I mean, the process made sense. Like they got a mid-round draft pick for a waiver claim, which is great.
Yeah.
But also they need to replace him. Like that. I mean, so I think that's it. Those won't be the splashiest things, but I think they could even add 2 defensemen before the trade deadline. But the biggest thing like on the roster that they would probably need to do is add another top 9 type center, like or a forward. It's weird. They have these guys, like, they have Parker Kelly and Ross Colton and Zakhar Barkov. These guys can all play center, but Jared doesn't want to play them, and they're in a playoff game. So yeah, and how do they go about getting that person? Does Ross Colton, or does he? I mean, he's like kind of like the most obvious guy that would probably, if the money has to work, they have a little bit of cap space, but not enough to go get like a $6 or $7 million player. So, yeah, I mean, I think those are the 2 things. I think like the third thing would be completely a luxury. They might not be able to do it because they just don't have enough picks and prospects and cap space to do it. But like if they could add one more forward who would basically just be Gabe Insurance, like a little bit like Ross Colton is kind of that guy right now.
Right.
But like if you could just add one more forward that Bednar would feel really confident in playing in the top 6 in case not just Landeskog, but any, if any one of those 6 guys gets hurt, if they could still, they'd probably like to have one more again. Like that's even like a level above first world problems. So
no, but I think if you're talking moving on from Ross Colton, who fits the team really well, you want then a player who's versatile enough to play in the top 9 if it came down to it, but maybe a more cost-effective version of Ross Colton. I think that's the only thing putting him in the trade conversation when they have a different need to address at center. And it's been tough because I think Jack Drury's come close to being what they need at 3C for the regular season.
Yeah.
I actually think he has solidly become what they need at 3C for the regular season. It's just a different conversation for what I think they'd like to have in the playoffs. And I think the depth defenseman conversation is what's interesting to me because I don't know what kind of mold this player should fit. And if we're talking about a 7th D, or if it's a bit of a retool around the defense a little bit with respect to maybe Sam Girard. I hate to volunteer his name. It's just the Malinsky extension with 2 very similar style players made me wonder if we're talking a 7th D or more of a 6th D, and it looks a little bit different.
Well, I mean, I think in general they would, if they could add somebody who is as good as Sam Girard and Sam Malinsky and also keep those guys, that would, again, this is, but that's a little bit of fantasy land though, right?
I agree. No,
so I
that's
do,
what
but
they
yeah,
should
no,
do.
look, and it's, the funny thing is, not funny, right, wrong phrase, but like, Sam Girard should kind of be like almost untouchable because they only have 2 left-handed defensemen, right? And so, but he's like of the 6 guys that they have, he's the most obvious. If they want to add another defenseman who's going to play every night in the playoffs, that probably includes Sam Girard not being on the team anymore, just because of the finances of all of it. So, yeah, look like they need another left-handed defenseman probably one way or another. I'm sure Jared Bednar would like another guy to be, whoever they add, to be large, or they at least not small, right?
No,
that's another thing. And so, yeah, I think it could go a couple different ways. I mean, they could literally just add, a 6'3" left-handed defenseman for a middle round draft pick that's not really that good, or not somebody you're going to play 22 minutes a night in a playoff game, just as insurance. But if there is somebody out there who, they think would even upgrade the 6 that they have right now a little bit, I think that would be something. It's a weird. They were so good for the first 40 games of the season. It is like, this does feel like a year where like they have to win. Like I'm not. Have to might be too strong, but it's pretty close to have to. Like the expectations that they have every year coming into it, and then also almost pushed to another level by how great they were to start the season. It does feel like this is a year where you don't want to be in the middle of the second round and be like, oh, I wish we had added one more piece. Like that's a whole like, it does feel like a year where it's time to throw everything in the middle. Not that they have to a certain degree the last couple of years too, but if there's something out there to do, they kind of need to do it.
Yeah. All right. I agree. And I don't know what it looks like, but I do think that it's going to be a little bit chaotic coming out of the Olympic break. On a positive note, I wanted to pivot to a conversation around unexpected performers or players who've maybe exceeded expectation this season so far in your eyes.
Yeah, I think there's been a few, right?
I think there's been a few, and so I was like, well, have fun with it.
Okay. Well, I mean, the obvious one is Sam Malinsky.
Yes.
I mean, like of all the players on this team who are doing something that I don't even know if people. I mean, I don't think anybody necessarily thought he was going to be this good. I think he proved last year that he's an everyday NHL defenseman. He's one of those guys. There's like a certain type of defenseman who they're really capable of just crushing third pair minutes, right? Like you want, I think every team should have a third pairing guy, like a number 5 or a number 6 defenseman who's just, you put him out there against other teams, like depth guys, and they crush it. And him and Gerard, or him and whoever he's played with, like those guys have done really well in that role. This year he has shown he can do more. I think, spending 15 games or whatever it was, 13 games with Makar on the top pairing, maybe there were some cracks. Like I don't think Sam Malinsky is going to be a number 2 defenseman for the rest of his career, but I think he's proven he can be more. And obviously they've paid him to be a little bit more, at least anyway. So he's an obvious, like, he has improved his station in the sport, or his station. He certainly improved his bank account with the job that he's done this year. But there are other guys too, like Brock Nelson has done this before,
right?
But he hadn't done it with Colorado.
Yes.
And so there was like, is he aging? Was it just the perfect fit in New York? What was it? And then, he just exploded, and he's awesome. I mean, he's like, even like when he wasn't producing that well, there were guys like, I think Nathan MacKinnon has a pretty good sense of like who is actually really good at hockey and who is not, and so the fact that he was just like, no man, like he's awesome, like, and sort of stuck with it, and then now kind of everybody's seeing it that Brock Nelson's really good. But I'm trying to think, like, even, I think Parker Kelly is obviously having a surprising season.
To say him.
Yeah. He's kind of having, I feel like he's almost having the season that Yoel Kiviranta had last year a little bit.
Yeah.
Although even Kivy said, look, it's going to be really hard for me to ever score 16 goals again. Everything kind of went right. Whereas there's a little bit more here with Parker. I think he's, even just in the past few games, it's been like, oh man, he's almost joined the ranks of the snake bitten. Like, he's had a bunch of good chances and they haven't gone in. So he's definitely one. And then honestly, the other one that I thought of too is, like, I wasn't really sure what to expect from Brent Burns as a 40-year-old, and as like, I spent a little bit of time with him in San Jose, but not a lot. And I think really for the first, 30, 35 game, whatever the stretch is, like, I think he was probably better than I expected him to be. Like, I'm not saying that I was expecting him to be not that good or whatever, but he was just whatever I was thinking he was going to be, which might have been like their 5th defenseman. He was better than that. And I think there's been some spots here and there where he's had some bad games like everyone else, and I'm sure this break is probably, if you were going to pick like one guy on the team that maybe this break is really good for, is probably him, just because of he's played so many games and so many minutes and all that. But so I think there's been a bunch of them. You could even say, like, Nathan MacKinnon is having a better year than he's ever had in his career. Like, but I wouldn't say that it's like entirely unexpected, but it's just, he just found like this much more than he, so.
Yeah. I don't know if people expected that after the 140 point season that he could produce on a similar pace. And I think there's still a lot of season left for him to surpass it. I think it's fluctuated over this last stretch going into the break, but I imagine he could come back with a little juice from the Olympics. I love the Brock Nelson call out, because you're right in saying he's kind of done this before in his career. It's not really surprising, but I look back at his impact in the Dallas series, and I think that he had a lot more to give than we were able to see. Some of that was just a short runway, and it was so hard for the Avs to beat Ottinger. That was just another part of it too. And so just 4 points in the Dallas series for Brock Nelson. But he's playing some of his best hockey at a time where the Avs are missing some key players and going through some difficult stretches of hockey. And I love that he's able to break through even with those circumstances, kind of holding the team back over this last month. And so for him to lead the league in goals from January onward, like in that stretch is an important qualifier there. You're getting some of your best hockey. He's finding ways to put the puck in the back of the net, even when the rest of the team might be struggling with that. Even when some of the other top players like Nathan MacKinnon, it's so funny to say that when he's still been highly productive, Cale Makar. It's great because that was exactly a problem they had in the Dallas series, that they needed Val Nichushkin and Brock Nelson in particular to be added threats, more dangerous. It was true across the board. It's not to call out just those players. And so that's my kernel of optimism too for Avs fans right now that might be sweating the power play, which is, again, fair concern. There are other things going well for the Avs right now that weren't even necessarily true going back to the Dallas series. So you're getting a really good stretch of hockey from Val Nichushkin too, quietly stringing together some point streaks going into the break and playing really well with Brock Nelson. I think that they've begun to find chemistry that they didn't have the luxury of building because Brock Nelson came in so newly after the deadline.
Yeah, they that line, like, and Brock in particular, like he played better later in the series, and that was probably because of Gabe.
I agree.
And so, and it was like the fact that, I mean, it was the ridiculousness of that whole thing last year with Gabe Landeskog that he came back and, you know, was on the second line by the second game, and literally, I mean, I don't think it's that crazy to say that, you know, Brock Nelson played better because Gabe Landeskog showed up and made that whole line better, even after he'd been gone for so long. So, yeah, I mean, there is, it'll probably become more acute in the playoffs when teams are like, just the whole game planning thing. Everything changes in the playoffs, right? And so the fact that Brock Nelson and Val Nichushkin have become this like dynamic duo who, you know, control 60% of the shot attempts whenever they're on the ice, and all the different things that they do. Like, I think that will probably show up at some point during the playoffs, as like just, like, again, like you said, like maybe they have an issue here or there, but it's like, oh no, actually they still have this thing that they maybe didn't even have last year. And so,
and they have it even away from Landeskog, who I think only makes them better if that's who ends up playing with them. But I think that's the other important thing too, is what they have, just the two of them, is really dangerous. I think that in looking at Brock Nelson's game too, he has rounded it out. Like, I won't suggest this was not always part of his game, but I think that the length, the size, and the added layer of the forecheck threat that is Val Nichushkin, a freight train on the ice, but then there's the second layer of support of Brock Nelson coming up to also battle for pucks or win races for pucks, has just made them so effective together.
And there was even, I mean, because of how good they've been together and how awesome they are at even strength, there's even been a little bit of like fringe of the discussion buzz for Brock Nelson for the Selke Trophy.
Yeah.
And like, that is different. Like, he was always like a very well-rounded, good 200-foot player for the Islanders, but he was never a Selke Trophy candidate. Like, he was not like that at that level. So there is probably some of, I mean, I think you could even make a pretty good case for Nichushkin in that department. Wingers don't win this Selke Trophy anymore, but they did, like, back in the day. Like, Yuri Lettinen won a few times for the Stars, so I mean, I do think that just the two of them together, it's not really rocket science that, like, these two 6'4" guys who are super skilled and also defensively responsible, they're kind of like both like perfect hockey players.
Yes.
So like it makes sense that you put them together and it's like a super team. So yeah.
Speaking of perfect hockey players, Parker Kelly. We're gonna get back to him in a second. I will say too, I like the Joel Kiviranta comparison, and this isn't to take an unnecessary side swipe at Kivy, but I think Parker Kelly adds an energy component in what he brings on the ice that has maybe separated to a little bit of what I think adds to his impact on a nightly basis, especially when the team has maybe been struggling in a game. There have been a couple timely energy goals that they have squandered a little bit, but the Parker Kelly goal, you can see the way it uplifts his team around him. So I know I said we'd put a pin in it, so we'll talk up Parker Kelly in just a second, but I need to get your input on the question you heard us talking about earlier with pineapple on pizza. And you have probably the most diverse palate of anyone I know. So I'm very curious to hear where you stand on pineapple on pizza.
I mean, I've had it. I don't hate it.
Yeah.
But I don't like, it's not like I can't wait to get pineapple on my pizza, like,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the ham and pineapple thing is, I think I've had prosciutto and pineapple before. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But yeah, no, I don't have like a, oh my God, you should be thrown in a volcano if you try it or if you like it. But I'm also not like gonna go to a pizza place tonight and order it either. So it's just kind of in the kind of on like. Weirdly, I'm the same way about pepperoni. Like I don't really, I'm not a love it or hate it person with pepperoni. It's just if it's on there, I'll eat it, and if it's not, it's not. So
anchovies?
No,
I've never tried either, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I can't. I lived with somebody who liked anchovies, and even the smell of it was so yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, my go-to pizza usually is either plain or mushroom, or if we're getting fancy, I do. If someplace has prosciutto on their pizza, I'm ordering it. So that's sort of like my go-to. My favorite pizza place in New York City, they have a prosciutto and mushroom pizza that's out of this world. So that
does sound really good. Okay, Jesse's wife does ham and pineapple. So we, at least in the Guerrilla Sports fam, have one vote for pineapple on pizza very solidly. I'm like you in a neutral territory. I'm not sure where I stand. Like I would try it without an issue.
Well, so the thing that I have tried since I moved here to Denver was the Palisade peach thing, which is a thing here, right? Yeah. So like I've had Palisade peaches on a pizza. I didn't love it. Actually, I was like, I think actually pineapple's probably better than that. So like if we're ranking fruits on pizza, it's like pineapple's above.
Yeah, at least there's a little tartness to the pineapple. Yeah, I think it's just too sweet.
It was kind of weird. I don't know.
That does sound a little weird. All right, if you're wondering why I'm talking about pineapple on pizza, it is because of DENPerks. DENPerks is bringing the fun to the airport with the great pineapple on pizza debate happening now through February 16th. Love it or hate it, everyone gets a vote. Visit pizza.denperks.com and make your voice heard to weigh in on the pineapple on pizza debate. Sign up for DENPerks Rewards. It's the program that literally pays you to eat and shop while you're at the airport. You earn points with every purchase and then redeem them for rewards such as gift cards, cash, and airline miles. And right now, during the debate, when you sign up, you're automatically entered for a chance to win a $1,000 grand prize or one of several $100 runner-up prizes. Plus, DENPerks gives you access to amazing local favorites like Bardot, Snooze, Tacos Tequila Whiskey, and more, all right in the concourse. So if you're like me, I like to fly early in the morning, and I love to treat myself to something, a smoothie at the airport. So if you're already going to be spending money while you're there, you might as well rack up some reward points. So vote, eat, earn, and win. Visit pizza.denperks.com and join the debate today. Now, there's no debating that Parker Kelly might be one of the best guys in the room. I am so excited that he made the unexpected performers conversation because it's not just what he's doing on the ice, it's the value add of his presence in the locker room. And you had a really great piece come out around the heated rivalry conversation on Pride Night, which was February 2nd in Ball Arena. And you talked to some fans, some people around the team. You got a really great perspective from Parker Kelly. So I just wanted to give you a chance to talk a little bit about that piece first and foremost.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I guess I should shout out Sydney Ivy, who owns the Spicy Librarian, which is a romance bookstore in Rhino.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have written this story if I didn't just wander over there and just see like, hey, what's going on here? Like, I mean, I had in my mind, like I wanted to do something with Pride Night. Yeah. And I knew that it was whatever I was going to do was going to be focused around heated rivalry because it has consumed a level of oxygen in the hockey like space. That
you can't escape it.
I've been completely floored by. And so so I went over to the store and I talked to Sydney, and it was so funny because she said, like, before the show came out, they really didn't have any of Rachel Reed's books in the store.
Wow.
And they had very little hockey romance. But now, like, whenever you walk towards the store, there's a sign outside that has like a heated rivalry themed, hey, come to our store. And then you walk in and it's literally right there. Like it's the main display at the front. It's all hard books. It's a bunch of other hockey romance stuff. But then, like, going to the arena and talking to fans, it was amazing. Like, it was very much like a heartwarming thing, like just to see all these people together. Like, like, one of the funny things was that, like, it was really hard to interview anybody because I was trying to interview people who were wearing heated rivalry things, and I would be talking to them and other people would be coming by and being like, oh, I love your shirt, or I love your coat, or I love, and so like they kept getting, like, they would lose their train of thought because they were like being, like, talking to other random people while they were trying to be interviewing me. But yeah, no, it was really, really just a good night. Yes, Parker Kelly, it's weird. I've seen a few people talking about it on the internet.
Yeah.
There are some people who think that he's the first NHL player who has just come out and said that he has watched the whole show.
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple other guys on the Avs who have maybe seen a little bit of, like, an episode here or there. I mean, everybody in there knows about it.
Right.
And everybody that I've talked to about it in there has been like, it's good for hockey. Like, they hear about it from their wives or their girlfriends or their friends. And so, yeah, but Parker, like, I just look at, like, I mean, I hate to draw the thing between the two, but, like, I was in San Jose when the Pride jersey thing really blew up. Like, one of the Sharks players didn't want to come out for warm-ups, didn't want to wear the jersey. And that was one of my least favorite days of covering hockey. And then, like, the other day was probably one of my favorites. So, like, but yeah, I mean, Parker's perspective on it, like, he had, like, a real world, like, he's got friends and family members who are gay, and he wanted to show them that he was supporting them. And, like, that's pretty simple and easy to me, I think. But also, like, his perspective on the show and being like, he watched the show and thought, like, man, there's, there might be somebody, there are definitely professional hockey players out there who are and just haven't come out. And so, like, just the empathy that he has, like, to be, like, to see things from another perspective, and you sort of, like, compare that to the players who won't wear the jersey. They have no perspective. Like, they only see their own perspective. They think their religious beliefs trump everything else. And it's, it's just, to me, it's pretty simple to be a good person and to, like, support people. Like, like, there are definitely hockey players who, I don't agree with their political views, or we don't align on things, but, like, they're still, like, they would still be acceptant. They would still accept a gay player in their locker room,
right?
Because, like, they still care about their teammates and they still see things from other perspectives, even if it's not what they believe or what they think. So yeah, I think that was just, I actually didn't get to talk to Scott. Like, so the two guys that wore the Pride tape were Parker and Scott. And I talked to Scott about heated rivalry, like, in early January, because I watched the show on Christmas Day, actually Christmas night. I watched the whole thing, like, just binged it. And so came back from the holiday, and
sorry, you're not the first. I think Gary Bettman said he binged it too.
Yeah, I saw that
it took me a little bit to watch it because I thought it was kind of lengthy. So I'm like, you must have stayed up all night.
No, it was I don't know. Well, maybe a little bit. Well, it was a weird experience because like, I started watching it. Whenever I started watching the show, there were only 5 episodes.
Oh,
but
okay.
by the end of the 5th episode, it was after midnight Eastern, and the 6th episode had dropped. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm watching it too. So here we go. So I just ended up watching the whole thing in one night. But so whenever I talked to Scott, like I said, like, right after we came back from the break, pretty much, he said that he had not watched it, but he had a couple of people had told him that it's really good. And I mean, Scott is. It would probably be of no surprise to people who are around the team every day that Scott and Parker are the two guys. Like, if you had told me who were the two guys on the team who were going to wear Pride tape, they would have been in my first few guesses, right? Just because they're both kind of similar people and similar personalities, and have, whenever I think of, like, hockey players who have empathy for things, I certainly think of those two guys. So
There were some people in my life that I wanted to support, Kelly said. It's a small gesture, but maybe if there was someone in the stands that felt a little more welcome or maybe lighten their spirit a little bit. Just wanted to make sure everyone knows we're on the same team and I'm supporting some friends and family. That's a quote from Parker Kelly in Corey's article on the DENPerks.com if you want to go read the full thing, which I highly recommend. It's a great article with some great perspectives about this show, too, that has really taken off in the hockey community. It's brought me I've connected with friends over it because my friends who are not hockey people will not stop. Like, you need to watch it. You need to see it. One gave me their HBO login so that I could go watch it. And that's how I was able to watch it.
100%. Like, I have multiple friends who like couldn't, I mean, I have friends who can't name a member of the Colorado Avalanche, right? Like, either aren't sports fans or like are sports. Like, I have two friends who are big sports fans, they're just not hockey people, right? And both of them are like, I've watched the show 4 times. Like, it's like, and so that's the thing to me. Like, I watched it one time, like the whole way through, and like I see some clips on Instagram here or there or whatever. But like, it's been amazing to me how many people that I've talked to in hockey circles, like hockey fans or non-hockey, whatever, like people just have watched it, 3 times, 4 times, 6 times.
Wow.
Like, just like I had 2 different, I talked to, I think like a half dozen fans for the story. And 2 of them were like, I watched the show and they both used the same phrase. Like, it's consumed my every thought since then. Like, and you see that a lot. Like, you see people in, hockey fans on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, where it's like, there are just so many memes and so many different things like, it's just been, I mean, it's like the biggest pop culture phenomenon that hockey has had, probably, since the Mighty Ducks, at least, I would say, if not like, and this is like even a little bit different than that. That was like, Mighty Ducks got a lot of kids into hockey that weren't into it before. And this has brought a totally different audience. But that's one thing that they have in common, is that they brought different audiences to the sport. So it's been pretty amazing. I mean, I've watched the other 2 shows that Jacob Tierney is the co-creator of, Letterkenny and Shoresy. I think Shoresy is also amazing. It's like,
I love Shoresy.
It is funny and goofy and completely different than Heated Rivalry, but there's like there are some similarities in just the, like, kind of the care for the characters and like the way that even the way the hockey is shot in both. It's just they're both really good. And I think maybe like some people who like didn't care about hockey at all before, like they get into hockey or they get into Heated Rivalry, they may stumble upon Shoresy too and be like, oh, this is like, it's a different side of hockey. It's like, it's a lot of chirping and a lot of, but it's also like I don't think the like bad parts of hockey culture are in Shoresy either. I think they do a great job of like showing like the good side of hockey culture with the chirping and all that stuff, but also not like the bad stuff either.
It's such a unique culture that's hard for me to explain to like friends and family who aren't in this world. And Shoresy is a great thing to point to and say, like, this is what I mean. And it's a great representation then of the unique aspects of the culture. And Heated Rivalry is a great like introduction to the sport for a lot of people. But it's also affirming just to see the sport that you love, even in the way it's portrayed in Heated Rivalry. But then the storyline, I think, is what will grab you in Heated Rivalry, and rooting for some of the interpersonal like relationships. Because personally, the storyline I connected with most in Heated Rivalry was Scott Hunter's character.
I think I've heard a lot of people say that too, actually. Yeah,
and I think it's because of the connection to the hockey. The way it was represented felt like that resonated most and felt most accessible to like the world that I know. And so I liked that. I'm excited. I think there's a spinoff on that relationship, or at least in the universe. I think there's more characters connected to those 2 in that coupling.
I haven't actually read the books, but there are 6 books. And I mean, the first book, like, I don't like, the first book wasn't even about Shane Hollander and Ilya Rozanov. It was, I believe, the first one was about Scott Hunter. And so like there are other characters who haven't been introduced into the show. I don't know exactly how deep they'll go into it, but
same.
And then there are 2 so far. There have been 2 books written about Shane and Ilya, and there's a 3rd one coming in the fall, I think.
Okay.
So it's like kind of I don't know exactly how many seasons of the show they're thinking of or planning of, but like they've definitely taken parts of different books already in one season. So
On StubHub, ticket sales for hockey have surged 40% since the show's
Yeah.
debut in the United States.
Well, that was also part of my thinking with the story, was that I knew that heated rivalry was going to drive whatever was happening at Pride Night. And so like the Avs didn't do very specific things with it, but there was a little bit like they right before the puck dropped, that thing on the scoreboard, it said our heated rivalry with the Red Wings.
Yes.
And the song played right before the puck drop too.
Was it all the things she said? Yeah. That's so funny. I didn't catch it.
Yeah, okay. And it didn't play for like a long time either, but it was as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, there it is.
That's fun.
But it was the Avalanche. There was like a tangible thing here. Like the Avalanche sold more ticket packages, like the Pride themed ticket packages, than they have for any other Pride night. And
cool.
It was like, I think Megan said it was the other. Sorry, Megan Boyle from the marketing department said 47% more than last year.
Wow.
And last year was the most they had sold. So like it's, and it was like, I mean, they like, again, they weren't like, oh yeah, heated rivalry drove this, but they also were like that. We know that's a big part of what it was. So
there's something called a heated rival rave coming to Denver.
Oh, okay.
I don't know much more about it, but if you are local and you love heated rivalry, you probably already have tickets. Who am I kidding?
Right. Well, that was one thing too. Like Sydney at the Spicy Librarian like said, not only are they now just like every day people are coming in and asking for the books. Like she said, you can't keep them on the shelves. They have like partnered with the bar next door or down the street, and they do heated rivalry trivia nights. I've seen those are like kind of popping up everywhere, all over the place. They're at the Spicy Librarian later this month or next month. They're doing a heated rivalry pottery night. Pottery painting, I think is what you called it. So there's just it's just a thing like that. Like hockey has never had this before. Hockey hasn't had like it's such an easy way to connect with people who are not just like diehard hockey fans all the time. And it's like, I mean, I really do hope that, teams and the league and I hope everybody can benefit from it in some way, shape or form. It's, the teams really, how much are teams doing? Are they doing enough? That's obviously a huge debate. Right. Another reason for part of the story is, as much as heated rivalry is like driving all this interest, it's, is the NHL actually going to be able to capitalize this? Is the NHL going to welcome everyone? It's a complicated thing, and we'll see where it goes. But so far, it's at least it's just a good thing to have out in the world, and honestly, like it's brought so many people to the sport.
Yeah. And so you could head on down to the Spicy Librarian later this month to make a little cup to drink some ginger ale, just like Shane Hollander. Nice. Yeah, I think it's undeniable, though. I don't think this is the last we've heard of heated rivalry around the NHL. It's just so directly linked to the sport at this point, and it's bringing a lot of eyes to it. So I always love more people to discover hockey because I think it's wonderful. But that's all I have for you today, Corey. Thank you so much for your time right before you get to go over to Hawaii.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to just having, a week and a half off. And time off. And like, and we've sort of alluded to it already. Like they have 5 games in 7 nights after we come back, which is stupid. Real honest. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Like that. No team should have 5 games in 7 nights at any point in the season, and it's terrible. But doing it right after most of these guys have not played a game for 20 days is also insane. But they have 5 games in 7 days, and then 3 days after that is the trade deadline. So it's just a crazy. They're going to come back. There's just going to be a game every night, and then there's going to be a couple days off when they're in Southern California and go into Dallas, and then there's going to be a trade deadline. And yeah, it's like on one hand, it's going to be, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a point in March where they're going to be like, whew, thank goodness we went 31-2-7 to start the season, because all those points that they banked are going to be come in handy. But the last thing is it's weird, right? Like they have games in hand on Minnesota and Dallas, and you're like, oh, that's great. Like they have this lead in the division, but they also have games in hand, which everybody always wants to have, except when it's like they're gonna have to play all. Yeah, like you don't want to actually have to play the extra games in this tight window, right? Yeah. So just a weird, we'll see. It's been a long time since the NHL has had an Olympic season, so we'll see how like a lot of stuff could change, in the last 25 games of the season or whatever.
I am curious. The Four Nations guys came back a little worn down, and they needed a little bit of rest at the end of the season in those final games. So I hope that's not the case. I mean, they can survive if they do need to give those guys some rest. They're just not typically ones to take very much of it. So I hope that the Olympic break, the way it's, laid out, that they still get a little bit of time to rest and relax and recharge.
Yeah. And also like the Four Nations break was a little bit shorter, and those games were even more compressed.
I feel like that's it. Yeah.
Like even whoever plays in the gold medal game, which, we can assume that at least
Brock and then all of Canada.
Yeah. I mean, somebody from the Avalanche is going to be on both. I mean, unless, Switzerland or Germany makes like a crazy run, which we don't really expect.
Which would be fun.
Some of the guys on the Avs are going to play six games because it's three round robin games and then the quarterfinals, semifinals. So, there's going to be, of those 8 guys, a couple of them are going to play 4, a couple of them are going to play 5, and some of them are going to play 6. So, but it's like 6 games. If you think about it, it's like 6 games in 18 days instead
2
of
weeks.
Yeah.
Plus.
Instead of whatever that 4 games in 7 nights or 8 nights or whatever the
duration
was. So, yeah.
I think that will be better for them. All right. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much, Corey. I really appreciate your time. We'll be back next week with some more off ice and some more fun stuff and Olympic content coming your way.